Today, we're talking about a forgotten beast that deserves way more hype. Welcome to the story of the Subaru Alcyone SVX, known simply as the SVX outside of Japan. A car so weird, so ambitious, and so unmistakably 90s that it deserves way more attention than it ever got. It was an anomaly, a moonshot, a gamble from a brand best known for station wagons and World Rally Championship dust-ups. The SVX is a car that didn't just think outside the box. It didn't even acknowledge the box existed. It's got aircraft-inspired windows, a spaceship body, and an engine that says, I want to go fast. But the transmission goes, let's not rush things. So buckle in. The SVX is a two-door, front-engine Grand Touring coupe that Subaru unleashed on the world from 1991 to 1996. It was their first and only real stab at creating a luxury performance car. And spoiler alert, it didn't exactly fly off the shelves, but it did make a grand entrance. Debuting at the 1989 Tokyo Auto Show, the SVX was penned by none other than Giorgetto Giugiaro of Ital Design. That's right, the same man behind automotive icons like the DeLorean DMC-12, the Lotus Esprit, the BMW M1, and even the original Volkswagen Golf. If you gave him a toaster, he'd probably make it look like it belonged in a spaceship. And that's basically what happened with the SVX. Under the hood, Subaru gave the SVX a power plant that matched its aspirations. Enter the EG 3.3-liter horizontally opposed flat-six engine. It was derived from the 2.2-liter EJ22 engine found in the Legacy, but with 2 extra cylinders and a lot more engineering magic. The EG33 wasn't just big, it was smooth, quiet, and surprisingly potent. Producing 231 horsepower and 228 foot-pounds of torque, the SVX had respectable performance numbers for the early 90s. It could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 7.3 seconds and do the quarter mile in 15.4 seconds at 92 miles per hour. No, it wasn't out-dragging Dodge Vipers, but that wasn't the point. This was about smooth, effortless cruising, long road trips, open highways, that feeling of covering ground quickly, wrapped in comfort and style. But here's where things get murky. Subaru, in a move that can only be described as very Subaru, decided to pair this sweet engine with a 4-speed automatic transmission, and only a 4-speed automatic. No manual, no flappy paddles, just a slush box that sometimes felt like it needed a second to think things through before deciding to shift. The transmission was notorious for being a weak point. Overheating was common, torque converters could fail, clutches would wear prematurely. Many SVX owners became intimately familiar with phrases like transmission rebuild or aftermarket cooler install. It was the Achilles heel of an otherwise well-engineered machine. Drivetrain options? Well, that depended on where you lived. Most SVX models came with Subaru's all-wheel drive system, which was a huge selling point. In the US, the system was called ACT4 or Active Torque Split, which primarily drove the front wheels and would send power to the rears when it detected slip. Not bad. But if you were lucky enough to be in Japan, Europe, or Brazil, you got the VTD or Variable Torque Distribution System. VTD was more sophisticated, using a planetary center differential and locking mechanisms to more actively manage torque distribution. It gave better balance and handling, especially in challenging conditions. Basically, other countries got the smart system. We got the diet version. The design was sleek, curvy, and futuristic. It looked like it had come from a different planet, or at least from a time when designers weren't afraid to be bold. It had a long, low profile with flowing lines, almost no sharp angles, and a wide stance that made it look planted and powerful even at a standstill. And speaking of weird design flexes, the windows. Oh yes, the legendary window within a window. Subaru looked at traditional side windows and said, nah, let's complicate things. So they added an extra layer, a fixed window section with a small cutout that rolled down. The idea was to reduce wind buffeting and improve aerodynamics while giving passengers the ability to lower just a small portion of the glass. The result? One of the most visually striking and mechanically complex side window setups of any production car ever. It was cool, it was unique, it was expensive to fix when it broke. But hey, welcome to luxury, Subaru style. And then, just to make things weirder, Subaru did something that made even less sense. In 1994 and 1995, they sold a front-wheel drive version of the SVX in the US, yes, a front-wheel drive luxury sports coupe. The variant was called the CXV. The idea was to bring the price down and maybe boost sales. But let's be real, removing the all-wheel drive system from a halo car kind of defeated the whole point. Meanwhile, back in Japan, Subaru was going all out. They released a version called the SVXL that came with 4-wheel steering. Yes, 4-wheel steering in the early 90s. Between 1991 and 1992, Subaru made just 1,905 of them. This system allowed the rear wheels to turn slightly at speed for improved stability and maneuverability. It was advanced even by today's standards, standards and hinted at just how much engineering went into the SVX if you happen to be in the right market. Inside the SVX was a revelation for Subaru. Soft leather upholstery, power-adjustable heated seats, automatic climate control, a CD stereo, and even an infrared keyless entry system. It was Subaru's most luxurious interior ever at the time. The dashboard was clean, the gauges legible, and the center console felt cocooned around the driver like an aircraft cockpit. The build quality was solid, the materials surprisingly upscale, and everything felt deliberate and well-placed. There was even a power sunroof. Not exactly groundbreaking today, but in the early 90s, this was borderline baller territory for Subaru. However, luxury in the 90s came with its quirks, like, for instance, no cup holders at all. Apparently, drinking liquids while driving was not considered luxurious. There was also no manual transmission option, not even as a special order variant. That decision alone drove enthusiasts mad. Thankfully, over the years, many owners have retrofitted their SVX with manual gearboxes from other Subaru models like the Legacy GT or RX. Doing so transforms the car into something way more engaging, if you're brave enough to tackle the swap. Let's talk money. When it first came out, the SVX had a base MSRP of $24,445, with top trims pushing $28,000. In today's money, that's around $50,000 to $60,000. You were paying Lexus money for a Subaru with a mystery transmission, not exactly a recipe for high sales volumes. And sure enough, sales were modest. Total production was around 24,000 units worldwide. Just 14,000 of those made it to the US, Japan got 5,000, Europe got 2,000, with Switzerland inexplicably hoarding 951 of them. There was even a concept version called the Amadeus. It was a shooting brake, a sleek two-door wagon variation of the SVX. It looked like a space cruiser with extra cargo space. Sadly, it never made it to production. Just another tantalizing what if that now sits in the Subaru concept vault next to other wild ideas like the WRX convertible and the STI minivan that never was. Let's get back to performance for a second. The SVX wasn't exactly light. It tipped the scales at over 3,500 pounds, but thanks to its boxer engine and low center of gravity, it felt composed and planted, especially at speed. Early models could reach a top speed of 154 miles per hour, though later ones were limited to 143 miles per hour due to tire ratings and safety concerns. Subaru basically said, okay, that's fast enough, calm down. Braking? Solid. It could come to a stop from 60 miles per hour in just 98 feet. Handling? Predictable. Confident, not razor-sharp like a Miata, but stable and smooth. It was built for long, sweeping roads, not tight canyon carving. It had more in common with the Nissan 300ZX than it did with sports compacts of the era. The SVX never got a racing version, though a few did find their way into amateur motorsport. More often, though, they showed up at car meets, where people would stare, scratch their heads, and ask, wait, what is that? And honestly, that's part of the fun. Subaru didn't market the SVX very hard. Maybe they didn't know how. It wasn't a pure sports car, it wasn't a traditional luxury car. It was stuck between segments, and in a decade dominated by the rise of SUVs and econoboxes, it got lost. The SVX was discontinued in 1996. No big farewell tour, no send-off edition. It just vanished. And yet, the SVX lives on in the hearts of weird car lovers everywhere. It has a cult following, from forums to Facebook groups. People who get it really get it, because the SVX dared to be different. It didn't follow trends, it set its own path. It was the weird Subaru coupe nobody asked for, and we're glad it exists. It even influenced Subaru's future. The SVX's bold styling helped inform later models like the Legacy GT and Impreza WRX. And in a way, it paved the path for the BRZ, a light, sporty coupe that finally delivered the manual transmission people wanted. Today, if you find an SVX in good shape, you're looking at a rare piece of automotive history. Prices are slowly rising. Low mileage examples, especially all-wheel drive models in pristine condition, are getting harder to find. Transmission issues still loom large. Some parts are discontinued, but the driving experience? Unlike anything else. So what did we learn today? The Subaru SVX wasn't perfect, but it was bold. It was visionary. It was that one time Subaru took off its hiking boots, put on a tuxedo, and went to a cyberpunk gala. And for that alone, it's worth remembering. If you're into stories about underappreciated icons, forgotten legends, or just plain weird cars, hit that subscribe button. There's plenty more coming. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.